In a quiet part of Fernwick, a crime shook the community to its core. The small town had always been peaceful, where neighbors greeted each other and children played freely. However, on a cold November evening in 2021, that sense of safety was shattered. The body of a woman named Amber Adams was discovered in a dimly lit alley behind an old bookstore. Amber was 34 years old, well-liked in her neighborhood, and a mother of 2 young girls. Her sudden death raised many questions. The alley was hidden from the main street. It was a place where people rarely walked after dark. The scene was both unsettling and shocking. Amber's body was found by a local shop owner, Mr. Baker, who was closing his store for the night. He noticed something unusual and went to investigate. The chilling sight left him in disbelief. He immediately called the police, his hand shaking as he pressed the numbers on his phone. Minutes later, officers arrived at the scene, flooding the narrow alley with lights and questions. As the investigation began, the grim atmosphere wrapped around Fernwick. Residents watched from their windows, whispering fears and mourning the loss of someone from their town. The police worked quickly to gather evidence but faced challenges. They needed to know how this tragedy happened and who was responsible. Amber's friends and family spoke to the news, sharing how warm and loving she was. The community rallied to support her children, who could not understand why their mother was gone. Many people had early theories about what may have happened that night. Some believed it could be a tragic accident. Others thought it looked like a targeted attack. They wondered if Amber had enemies or if someone was following her. Speculation ran wild, with neighbors suspecting each other. Everyone was eager to find answers. Emotional discussions filled the air, and fear took root in the once peaceful streets. On the outside, the warmth of Fernwick seemed to disappear. The town was now a stage for grief and questions. How could this happen? Was Amber simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, or was there something darker hiding behind this crime? The authorities continued their work while people held their breaths, waiting for news. The fear created a haunting tension within the community, as uncertainty gripped both friends and strangers. Amber's life ended in a tragic and mysterious way. This story began with a discovery that changed everything. It was not just about loss. It was about seeking truth and understanding. The investigation would explore deep into Amber's life, her relationships, and any important clues that could reveal what led to her untimely death. The strong reactions from those who knew her made clear that her story mattered deeply, not just to her family, but to everyone living in Fernwick. The quest to bring justice would begin, illuminating a hidden truth within a seemingly quiet town, thus pointing towards a path filled with hard questions and the need for answers. As news of Amber Adams's death spread through Fernwick, the local police began their investigation without hesitation. Detectives Clyde and Cyrus took the lead in the case. They were experienced officers, known for their dedication and skill. They arrived at the scene of the crime wearing dark coats, ready to gather every piece of evidence that could tell them what happened. They knew that each detail was important, no matter how small. The first step was to collect physical evidence from the alley. Forensic experts joined the detectives to examine the area closely. They took samples from the ground and looked for anything that could reveal who was there that night. The team even dusted for fingerprints and collected fibers from Amber's clothes. Every piece of information could help them understand the situation better. Next, investigators reviewed surveillance footage from nearby shops. The old bookstore had a camera pointing towards the alley. As officers studied the footage, they hoped it would show them something useful. The video played over and over, as they looked for anyone who might have come or gone near Amber's last known location. Hours passed, and their determination never waned. Witness statements were also collected in the following days. People who lived or worked nearby were interviewed. The police asked if they saw anything unusual on the night Amber died. Some witnesses reported hearing arguing in the alley, but no one had a clear view of what happened. Others claimed to have seen a man with a dark hoodie lingering near the bookstore earlier that evening. While many provided similar descriptions, the detectives struggled to find a solid lead that could identify the stranger. As the investigation unfolded, suspicion began to fill the air in Fernwick. The whispers in the town grew louder. Some locals pointed fingers at people they had never suspected before. Rumors spread about various individuals who had strange behaviors. One man named Danny, who occasionally walked near the alley, was known for his inconsistent stories about his whereabouts on that night. People began to wonder, could he hold the key to resolving this mystery? Detectives followed up with Danny, asking him more questions about his alibi. His answers raised more doubts than answers. Danny claimed he was at home that evening, but no one had seen him there. He had friends who could not confirm his presence. The uncertainty made him look more suspicious in the eyes of the community. The investigation pressed on, but the fear in Fernwick continued to grow. People feared for their safety. Could a killer still be wandering around the small town? Residents secured their doors and stayed inside later at night. Even as fear loomed large, the unwavering dedication of law enforcement kindled hope. Detectives and forensic teams worked tirelessly, determined to find the truth. With every passing hour, they pushed towards clarity. The mix of tension and curiosity kept eyes on the investigation. Amber's story was not over. It was just beginning to unfold. The search for answers was crucial, not just for justice, but for the healing of a community shaken to its core. Resilience began to emerge among the townspeople as they supported one another. The path was demanding, but glimpses of hope flickered through the uncertainty. As the investigation in Fernwick continued, detectives began to uncover hidden clues that could lead them closer to the truth about Amber's death. While reviewing her background, they discovered something intriguing about her. Amber had reported strange encounters in the weeks before her death. She had mentioned to some friends that she felt someone was watching her. She described a man with a blue truck who appeared near her home several times. This detail made detectives question if this man could have played a role in her death. The detectives decided to investigate further. They spoke to her friends and family about these incidents. They learned that Amber had felt uneasy for some time. This strange behavior seemed like more than coincidence. By looking into past incidents, they hoped to find a connection that could help explain what had happened. Investigators checked reports in the area and found that other women had also complained about a man following them. It seemed Amber was not the only one who felt unsafe. However, as they pieced together the facts, complicating factors surfaced. While the initial clues appeared promising, not all of them led down the same path. Some witnesses changed their stories or had unclear memories of the night of the crime. One witness, who claimed to have seen someone near the alley, suddenly retracted his statement. His change of heart confused detectives. How could they trust what others would say? Unreliable witnesses filled the air with doubt. Moreover, local media started to cover the case heavily. Articles filled the town's newspaper, bringing attention but also pressure on law enforcement. Reporters chased leads, but some stories misrepresented information. This made the situation more tense and complicated. The detectives found that their efforts were being clouded by the growing scramble for information. Public interest was high, and many wanted quick answers, but investigations required time and patience. False leads began to arise as a result. One such rumor suggested that a local vendor, known for having some issues with the law, may have been involved. The man often sold items in the market near Amber's neighborhood. As people in town shared stories, many started to focus on him without real proof. The police followed up, but their investigation led to a dead end. The vendor had an alibi, and no connection was found to Amber or the crime. As time went on, the mounting speculation created distrust in the community. People started to turn on one another, blaming their neighbors in fear. This division worried both the investigators and the peaceful residents. It was clear that they needed genuine evidence to clear the air and find the criminal behind this tragedy. Every step forward encountered new obstacles, but detectives held firm. They continued pursuing lines of investigation, remaining committed to uncovering the truth. The clouds of confusion might have hung thick, but beneath them was a burning desire to deliver justice. The case was evolving. With each passing day, the sense of urgency grew, as the hunt for answers became a powerful drive for not only law enforcement, but also the community as a whole. Everyone was touched by Amber's story, and optimistic tension lingered as the commitment to discovery deepened. The long investigation into Amber Adams's death finally reached a turning point. Detectives had been running into dead ends and facing countless obstacles. Just when hope was fading, a critical discovery changed everything. The forensic team finished analyzing the evidence collected from the crime scene. They found DNA on the clothing Amber wore the night she was killed. This evidence could lead them directly to the killer, or, at the very least, provide new insights. The news hit the detectives like a bolt of lightning. Within days, the lab worked rapidly to match the DNA to known profiles in their database. The detectives waited eagerly, knowing this could be the breakthrough they needed. Meanwhile, the community still buzzed with theories and fears. Tension gripped the town, which long waited for clarity. People wondered if this new evidence would finally point to the truth. As the DNA results came in, the police learned that it matched a man named Benson, someone who lived nearby. Benson was known to have a history of petty crimes, but had evaded serious charges in the past. This connection shocked many. Neighbors began to recall seeing him near the pharmacy around the time of Amber's disappearance. He had been acting strangely, according to many who lived near him. This new suspect wasn't connected to Amber directly, leading to new questions about his motives. Why was he near the crime scene? The detectives quickly acted on this information. They monitored Benson, hoping to catch him off guard. His reactions to simple questions raised more concerns. He seemed nervous and avoided eye contact during interviews. There was something not quite right about him. As detectives built a stronger case, they found more evidence. They discovered that Benson had been sending odd messages to acquaintances days before Amber's murder. These messages revealed dark thoughts and hints of obsession. The detectives realized that this was more than just chance. Benson likely had been watching Amber. The moment of confrontation came unexpectedly one evening. Detectives planned to approach him at his home. They had gathered enough evidence to make an arrest, but officers wanted to ensure it was executed smoothly. However, when they arrived, Benson sensed something was wrong. He fled, leading to a chaotic scene. Detectives chased him through nearby backyards, calling for him to stop. Breathless and determined, they finally cornered him behind a fence, where they brought him down in a swift but careful manner. As officers cuffed him, the relief washed over the team. This arrest opened a new chapter in the case. As the detectives led Benson away, they couldn't shake the feeling that they had finally found the missing pieces of the puzzle. But even in finding him, many questions still lingered. Was he truly at the center of Amber's death? What drove him to commit such a terrible act? The initial sense of triumph was mixed with anxiety. The specifics of this shocking twist would require a thorough investigation in the coming days. Even in victory, the questions felt heavy. Fernwick was changed forever, but hope had returned. Answers were on the horizon, and with them, a promise for justice and understanding could finally begin to seep into the shadows of a grieving community. As Benson was taken into custody, the detectives moved him to an interrogation room for questioning. They wanted to understand how he felt, and what led him to commit such a horrific crime. The pressure was high. Detectives believed that understanding his mental state was key to finding the truth. Inside the small room, Benson sat anxiously, his eyes darting around. He seemed tense, often fidgeting with his hands. Detectives opened the conversation gently, asking him about the night when Amber died. At first, Benson denied everything, insisting that he had no idea what they were talking about. His body language told a different story. He shifted in his seat and avoided straight answers, The pressure built, but he remained defensive. As the detectives pressed for clarity, they began to show him the evidence against him. They revealed the DNA match, the messages, and even the previous warning reports. Instead of crumbling under the weight of their arguments, Benson became even more withdrawn. He attempted to manipulate the conversation, turning the focus back on the police. "Why are you blaming me?" he asked, looking up with false innocence. "You have no proof." This tactic reflected his struggle to control the situation and deflect responsibility. Time passed, and the detectives could sense Benson slipping further into paranoia. He started to wonder out loud if someone else had set him up. "Maybe someone wanted to frame me," he suggested weakly, suggesting that others had motivations to cause him harm. His tone was desperate, and he was grasping at straws. The detectives noticed how he tried to twist the details of the situation, making it hard to pin him down. Then, a change happened. As they continued the conversation, Benson began to speak about Amber. He mentioned that he admired her from afar. At first, this seemed harmless, but the undertones of his words suggested something more sinister. He expressed frustration about being ignored by her. "She should have seen me," he murmured, revealing a motive rooted in anger and obsession. The detectives recognized the psychological aspect of his confessions. Benson's feelings of rejection had bred an unhealthy fixation on Amber. Under pressure, he finally began to acknowledge that he had followed her, even mentioning wanting to talk to her. Suddenly, this known factor twisted into something deeper. He described how it felt to be rejected and how he thought she could have changed her mind about him if she had just noticed him. With pressing questions, the detectives began to help Benson connect the dots for himself. They guided him to the confrontation that took place that night. Benson became emotional, and for a brief moment, he exhibited regret. He mentioned a struggle. "I didn't mean to hurt her. I just wanted her to see me," he finally confessed in a broken voice. This moment shook the detectives as they recognized they were close to the heart of his reasoning. Benson's emotions had driven him to madness, leading to a shocking reality that revealed dark impulses fueled by obsession. The psychological breakdown offered a grim understanding of how someone could commit such a crime. As they documented his confession, Glucose felt a heavy silence fill the room. The truth somehow left them unsettled. The community had lost a beloved life, and yet the chaos within Benson's mind showed that even the most ordinary people could harbor dark thoughts. Detective Clyde and Cyrus exchanged serious glances, knowing full well that sometimes the most complicated puzzles do not come from premeditated plots, but from twisted feelings and misguided intentions. There would be more to deal with in the paths of justice and healing ahead. As the investigation into Amber Adams's death progressed, Benson was charged with her murder. The legal proceedings began shortly after his arrest. In the tight-knit community of Fernwick, the case drew significant attention. Residents anxiously awaited the trial, hoping for justice. The emotions were high, and many mourned the loss of Amber while seeking answers. The courtroom became a place of tension and anticipation, as each hearing brought new developments. During the trial, the prosecutors built a strong case against Benson. They presented the DNA evidence that linked him to the crime scene. The prosecutors also shared details from Benson's confession, revealing his unhealthy obsession with Amber. They explained how his feelings of rejection turned dangerous, leading to deadly consequences. Witnesses took the stand to discuss their encounters with Benson, describing his odd and unsettling behavior. This testimony painted a vivid picture of how Benson's mindset evolved into something toxic. However, Benson's defense team played a different angle. They argued that he acted in a moment of passion and fear. They insisted that he should not be held fully responsible for his actions. They sought to show the jury that he had a troubled past and suffered from mental health issues. This unexpected defense strategy shocked many in the courtroom. It raised questions about guilt, motivation, and how far personal struggles could excuse terrible actions. The jury listened closely, trying to understand both sides of this complex case. As for Amber's family, the trial was emotionally painful. They sat in the courtroom, recalling happy memories while also facing the reality of their loss. Amber's parents and friends painted a loving picture of her life, reminding those present that she was more than just a victim. Her spirit echoed in the testimonies, and the pain of losing her weighed heavily on the family. Each day in court reminded them of the love they lost, adding to the emotional toll of the trial. Community members were also deeply affected. Many often gathered outside the courthouse, holding signs that called for justice for Amber. Their presence indicated a community united in their wishes for answers. They spoke to reporters and shared their shock regarding the events. Some expressed anger over the unfolding details and debated if justice would be truly served. Conversations arose about how to support mental health in the community and keep others safe. As weeks passed, the courtroom saw dramatic moments. On the last day of trial, the prosecution revealed a recording of Benson's confession in which he expressed remorse. This unexpected revelation confirmed their arguments, but added weight to the debate about his mental state. The jury ultimately faced the difficult decision of determining guilt, while considering the complex reasons behind the crime. Finally, the time came for the verdict to be read. The courtroom held its breath as the jury entered. Would they find Benson guilty or not? The tension in the room was almost unbearable. The decision would shape not only Benson's future, but also the community's sense of safety and closure. Amber's family waited, hoping for justice amidst the turmoil. The outcome would echo through Fernwick, forever impacting the lives of those affected by this tragic case. When the jury announced its verdict, the courtroom fell silent. Benson was found guilty of the murder of Amber Adams. The decision sent shockwaves across the community and beyond. Fernwick, once a peaceful town, had become the center of attention. News outlets swarmed the courthouse, eager to share every detail of the case. Reporters broadcast live updates, and the story quickly became high-profile. People from different towns started talking about it, eager to know more about what had happened. Amber's family expressed mixed feelings of relief and grief when they heard the verdict. They felt that justice had been served, but also faced the hard reality that their beloved Amber was gone forever. They became a symbol for many who were affected by loss. Their bravery in speaking out helped bring awareness to the issue of violence against women. Many grateful people reached out to offer support and condolences after the verdict. This outpouring of compassion reminded them that the loss of Amber was felt by many, not just their own family. Meanwhile, the media intensified their coverage of the case. Reports started to explore the broader implications. What could the town do better to protect its citizens? Many discussions revolved around mental health resources and safety measures. Community members felt the sting of losing Amber, but they also started to find strength together. They held candlelight vigils to honor her memory and called for greater action to ensure safety for all. The public reaction brought people together, united by grief, but filled with hope for change. However, not everyone was satisfied with the proceedings. Some community members began to express lingering doubts about the investigation. Questions arose about whether all possible evidence had been gathered. Social media was filled with discussions about conspiracy theories and alternative explanations. The public debated whether the police had enough proof to charge Benson. Even after the guilty verdict, some believed there might be further unexplored angles. Did someone else play a role? Was there more to the story that had not come to light? The detectives remained focused on Benson while promising to review the case for any new evidence. They invited anyone with information to come forward, hoping to quench the unrest among residents. Periodically, they reinforced the commitments to keep the lines of communication open. The leadership was clear that a skeptical public could be beneficial in discovering neglected facts. Several months later, local media continued to follow the case closely. They reported on the execution of the sentence and the impact on Amber's family. As trials went through their stages, discussions remained ongoing, but many also wanted a resolution. While some community members spoke loudly about alternative thoughts, others advocated for healing. Calls for education on violence prevention rose, focusing on awareness, empathy, and support for victims. In the coming months, the community of Fernwick began to slowly recover. Workshops and discussions were organized about safety and mental health resources available. While the pain of losing Amber was still vivid, many began working towards building a safer environment. As they found ways to remember Amber, including memorials and fundraisers, the focus shifted. They transformed their grief into actions that hoped to ensure other families would not endure a similar tragedy. As the story of Amber Adams continued to unfold, so did the resilience of the community left in her wake. As the trial of Benson concluded, the community of Fernwick began to find a sense of closure. They felt a mix of emotions: relief, sadness, and determination. Justice had been served with Benson's conviction for Amber Adams's murder. His sentencing meant that he would pay for the crime he committed, and for many, this felt like a step towards healing. Amber's family found comfort in the knowledge that their loved one was not forgotten and that someone was held accountable for their loss. However, not all questions were answered. While Benson was found guilty, some aspects of the case continued to trouble both detectives and residents. They wondered whether there could have been deeper connections or other factors that contributed to the crime. The complexity of motivations, especially with people struggling with mental health issues, stirred up ongoing discussions within the community. What drove Benson to this act? Was it purely obsession, or were there other influences at play? The case had lasting impacts that extended beyond the individual trial. In the wake of Amber's murder, local leaders began to evaluate policies around public safety and mental health. Some community members pushed for more resources to aid those in need. Discussions led to new initiatives focused on mental wellness, domestic violence prevention, and community support systems. The hope was to ensure that no other family would have to face the heartache of such a violent act. Local laws were also reviewed to see if they could better protect victims and encourage those in need to seek help. Psychologically, the case highlighted the importance of understanding the underlying issues that push individuals toward violence. Analysts pointed out that Benson's behavior was not isolated. It was part of a larger pattern in society. It raised awareness about how emotional distress and isolation can lead to dangerous thoughts and actions. This case served as a cautionary tale about the importance of empathy, connection, and community support. While Amber's story ended with her tragic death, it sparked many meaningful conversations. The strong emotions that flowed from the trial led residents to reflect on their roles in fostering a safer environment for everyone. They shared stories, organized workshops, and engaged in community events aimed at education and prevention. Even with convictions and new measures in place, a lingering mystery remained. Could the system always protect individuals from harm? How can communities work together to prevent similar tragedies? As Fernwick navigated its way through the aftermath, the memory of Amber Adams stayed alive. She became a symbol of resilience in the face of violence, her name lighting a fire in the push for change. In reflecting on this journey, one important question arises: could justice ever truly be served in this case, or does it leave too many unanswered questions? The answers may never come fully, but the call to action remains vibrantly clear. It is the responsibility of each individual to look out for one another, to pay attention, listen deeply, and create spaces where everyone feels safe and valued. By raising awareness and showing support, people can help bring an end to the cycles of violence and tragedy that haunt communities like Fernwick.